What is up guys, Stark here. I am back for day 17 of the 25 Days of Fate, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the Mystic Codes. So for those of you who are not aware, the Mystic Codes are essentially your uniform that you wear when you go into fight, and each of these have 3 different skills that you could use to help you along the way in your battles. So I'm going to be ranking the 12 Mystic Codes currently available in the game, and 4 of those are only available on Japan right now, but it is a little bit of an insight onto which ones we're going to be getting in the future. So yeah, I'm going to be ranking them 12 to 1, and I'll talk a little bit about them, and that's pretty much it. So at number 12 we have the Brilliant Summer Mystic Code. So the Brilliant Summer Mystic Code is going to be the Mystic Code we got for the summer event. So you're going to need a maximum of 8,950,000 EXP in order to max out this Mystic Code. And you get Mystic Code points from just completing battles. You automatically get them as you do your fights. There are craft essences that can help increase your points for your Mystic Code, and that's going to be very helpful, especially for some of the other Mystic Codes that we get. You know, if you think 9 million points is a lot, you haven't seen anything yet, so you know, they'll go up to level 10 just like skills on your servants, and they also do have 3 of their own unique skills that you could use at your leisure in the fight, and they work the same way as servant skills. So for the Brilliant Summer, first up is going to be the Rumble Party, which will increase your party's quick card effectiveness for 1 turn. So this is going to give you a 20% increase at level 1 and a 30% increase at level 10 on a 15 turn charge time, 13 at maximum level. So it is pretty nice that you get the party-wide buff for quick card effectiveness, but more often than not you'd rather have a single target buff for your quick cards. You know, maybe have a 50% increase instead of the 30% party-wide. For a second effect is going to be the Deadly Trident, which will grant one of your servants Pierce Invincibility status for 1 turn. So this is a nice effect if you're going against someone with invincibility, but it is a very situational effect, and more often than not, you're probably not going to be able to use it. However, the thing about Mystic Codes that are nice is that if you know going into it that that enemy has, you know, invincibility, then you can just go ahead and switch your Mystic Code over and benefit from this. And that is why Mystic Codes are so cool. You could just bring them into the situations that they're called for, and you don't have to worry about it. It does have a 10 turn charge time at maximum level, so it's not too bad. You know, most of the skills have really high cooldowns because, you know, they're just extra skills that you really shouldn't be using, but they are very helpful to have. And then finally, you have the Beach House Shower, which will recover one servant's HP as well as charge their Noble Phantasm gauge by 10%. So this will heal 3,000 HP at level 10, and it will also have a 10 turn charge time at maximum level. So honestly, this isn't a bad heal, but overall this is just a pretty lackluster Mystic Code. Now, the effects are good, but it's just that this is compared to some of the other ones that are available for us, and you know, just compared to them, it just doesn't quite live up to what you really want in your Mystic Codes. So next up for number 11, we have the Mystic Code Memories of Lunacy. So this Mystic Code is also attained through a Mystic Code quest, and this is going to, you know, again be a very easy one to get through. However, this one is currently not available, so you know, if you do want this one for whatever reason, then you're gonna have to wait and see if it comes back. But for this one, you're also going to need 8,950,000 EXP in order to max it out. That EXP right there is about the average for what you need for maxing out the Mystic Codes. Most of them have that amount of EXP. There are a few differences, but generally speaking, most of them do have that amount of EXP. As for the skills though, the first one is going to be the Spiritron Boost, and this one will increase one servant's art card effectiveness by 50% at maximum level for 1 turn. So this skill right here is really good, getting that single turn burst for art card effectiveness. That is going to be very helpful, and you know, it does have a 13 turn charge time at maximum level, so you're probably not going to be using it too often, but you can pick and choose when you use this, and if you have a really good burst turn for arts, then you might want to just go ahead and tag that on top of it. The second skill is going to be the Stepping Stone to Ultimate Victory, which will increase one servant's critical star generation rate for 1 turn. And this can go up to 100% at level 10 on a 10 turn charge time, which is really good. However, generally speaking, it's just generation and not absorption, so even if you're generating the stars, you're not really necessarily going to be getting them back. You know, another character could take those stars that you generated. I mean, I guess if you're using it for like another character, if you're comboing it with someone who has high absorption and you want them to get those stars, then it's fine. but really, I don't know, it doesn't seem like you're going to be using the skill effectively very often. And then finally, we have Punishment, which will apply Nullify buff to a single enemy one time. So again, this is very situational, and obviously if you're going up against an enemy that has a particularly nasty buff, then you might want to bring this Mystic Code and get rid of it, but it only lasts for one time, and you know, it does have a 13 turn charge time at maximum level. So if you're hoping to use it against bosses, then you better pick wisely because you're only going to get one shot at this. So overall though, this Mystic Code isn't all that great. You know, it does have some pretty cool effects on the first two skills, but if you have an arts character, they're probably not going to benefit too much from star generation. There are a few characters that might benefit from it, like say Vlad, but overall it's just not really that good of a Mystic Code. Moving on to number 10, we have the Royal Brand Mystic Code. But this one is cool. It looks cool. You know, it's the Fate Zero suit that Saber wears, and you know, that alone should be something that makes this Mystic Code really good. But unfortunately, it's just not that great. So the first skill is going to be the Reaction Reinforcement, and this will increase one ally's quick card effectiveness for one turn. So unlike the Brilliant Summer one, where it was a party-wide buff, this one does have the 50% increase at level 10 on a 13 turn charge time. So that's really nice. You're going to be able to pick your Quick Servant to boost for that one turn, which is really nice. Its second skill is also the Iron Devotion, which will increase one ally's critical star absorption rate for one turn. So this can go up to 1000% at level 10 on a 10 turn charge time. So this one's really nice. You know, you can combo it very well. Most quick characters do want to get critical stars. So these two skills can be comboed together very effectively in order to get a massive stars and do a ton of damage. But the reason why it falls so low on the list is because of its third skill, which will be the Inescapable, and that will apply Sure Hit to one ally for one turn. This will have an 8 turn charge time at maximum level, and it's not a bad skill, but again, this is a very situational skill, and unless that ally or the enemy has evasion, you're not going to use it, and effectively having a Mystic Code with only 2 skills that you can reliably use, it just doesn't match up to the Mystic Codes that have 3 skills that you can effectively use. So next up on the list, we have the Memories of the Far Side of the Moon. Now this is a Japanese exclusive Mystic Code, but hopefully we do get it on global at some point. Although I do say hopefully we get it. It's really not that great, you know, ranking number 9 overall on the list. But the first skill is going to be the Complete Spiritron Elevation, and this will increase your party's arts card performance for one turn, and this will go up to 30% level 10 on a 13 turn charge time. So this one is a little bit better than having a party-wide buff of quick card, because, you know, a lot of characters do benefit from using arts cards, and you have a much easier time at making arts chains and arts teams, so you do benefit a little bit more from having a arts party-wide buff. But I still think it would be better if you had a single target instead of a party-wide buff. This one's not really used for doing damage, so you know, having a little bit of a boost there is going to be pretty good. The second skill is going to be the Groundwork for Survival, which will grant one servant debuff immunity for one time. So this one is pretty interesting. You know, it does have a 10 turn charge time at maximum level, but you can make a lot of uses out of this, and it is very situational in the fact that it's for debuffs. But if you're going into the fight with a servant that will cause themselves debuffs, then this one is a pretty good option to use, because you can just use this skill and get rid of that debuff, and you can get all the upsides to whatever effect it is that you're using without worrying about the downside. So that's a pretty good option, and that's why it ranks ahead of some of the other ones that have very situational skills. And then the third and final skill is going to be the Downslide, which will remove one enemy's Null Phantasm gauge by 1. So obviously this one is very helpful, being able to take away one ally's gauge by 1. You know, if they have a Null Phantasm ready, you can just go ahead and take away one of their gauges, and then they could potentially die before they use their Noble Phantasm, which could always be very helpful, and you can find it useful in a lot of situations. Next up at number 8, we have the Fragment of Year 2004, which is going to be another Japanese exclusive Mystic Code. And the skills for this one, the first one's going to be Code F, which will increase one servant's Noble Phantasm damage for one turn. This will give it a 50% increase, and it'll have a 10 turn charge time at maximum level, which is a pretty sizable boost to damage. So you could just use this when you use your Noble Phantasm. It's very good. You know, it could be very effective in farming, and anytime you need to use your Noble Phantasm is going to be very helpful. The second skill is going to be Code U, which will increase one servant's critical star absorption of buster cards for 1 turn. This will go up to 10,000% at level 10 on a 10-turn charge time, but again, it is only, it does only apply for buster cards. So, it is a little bit of a downgrade as opposed to just complete critical star absorption, but overall, you'll be able to find some pretty effective ways of using it. And then finally, we have the Code H, which will increase one servant's level 1000 generation rate for 1 turn. This will be 50% at level 10 on a 10-turn charge time. So it's going to be very helpful in getting your Noble Phantasm generated, and then you can go ahead and use Code F to do the increase in damage. So overall, it is a pretty good one, right there in the middle of the pack. Being able to just increase your Noble Phantasm damage is going to be very helpful. Moving on to number 7, we have the Tropical Summer Mystic Code, which again is another Japanese exclusive. And this was given away for the Summer Servant Festival for this year. And this first skill will be the Blue Splash, which will increase one servant's arts card effectiveness for 1 turn, as well as increase their Noble Phantasm damage for 1 turn. So this is really cool and really unique as it has multiple effects on the skill. So you get a 30% increase to your arts card effectiveness, and you get a 20% increase to your Noble Phantasm damage on a 13-turn charge time. So that's really good. You get the extra bonuses right there, do a little bit of extra damage. Really can't complain about that. The second skill is going to be the Supply Water, which will increase your servants, or one of your servants' critical star absorptions of arts cards for 1 turn. This will be 1000% at level 10 on a 10-turn charge time. However, this is a little bit higher than the other one, being able to combo it with the first effect and increase your arts card effectiveness, as well as increasing the star absorption of those arts cards. So overall, they do combo pretty well together and make for a pretty good set of skills. The third one is the Safety Oil, which will increase one servant's buff removal resistance for 1 turn, as well as charging their Noble Phantasm gauge by 10%. So obviously the first part is pretty situational, having to go against an enemy that can remove buffs. You're not going to find too many of them, but being able to get 10% to your gauge filled is going to be pretty nice. It does have a 10-turn charge time at maximum level. Overall though, again, there's a lot of these that only have like 1 or 2 really good skills, and then the third one kind of falls off and just drags it down a little bit. But we're about to get into, I guess, the upper tier of Mystic Codes, where they're all pretty useful and pretty helpful along the way. Next up at number 6, and like I said, this is kind of getting into the territory where they kind of separate from the lower tier to the higher tier, and we have the Atlas Academy uniform ranking in here at number 6. This one is a very solid one, like right there middle of the pack. But the one thing is that you guys can notice here is that it jumps from 8.9 million EXP needed to 70 million. So you're going to be farming for a while to get this Mystic Code maxed out. And you do have to do a quest to get it, but again, they're not that difficult. And this one is still available in the game, so don't worry about that. Just get it as you can. So as for the skills, the first one is going to be the Dust of Osiris, and this will apply invincibility to one servant for 1 turn. This will have a 13-turn charge time at maximum level, and obviously being able to get a turn of invincibility outside of servant skills is going to be tremendous. It's going to be very helpful in keeping your servants alive. It'll be helpful for like solos and things like that. You can use this as opposed to using their skill, or if their skill's on cooldown, you can just use this, and then their skill might come back off of cooldown, and you're good to go. This Mystic Code is basically built for like soloing and things like that, so just keep that in mind. I'll probably say it a lot. The second skill is going to be the Reign of Isis, and this will remove the whatever target you use this on, their debuffs. So this is going to be helpful, obviously, if you have debuffs. It is a little bit situational, but it is going to be very helpful. And again, if you're using it as a solo Mystic Code, then anytime that servant gets hit with a debuff, just go ahead and use this and get rid of it. It does have a 13-turn charge time, which may seem like a lot, but when you're doing solos and things like that, you're going to have a lot of turns. You basically use servants that are hard to kill and can recycle evasions and things like that. So more often than not, you're probably going to be able to use this skill multiple times in the same fight. And then third and finally, we have the Eye of Medjed. So this one is going to reduce that target servant's skills cooldowns by 2. So this is going to be very huge. Being able to reduce the cooldowns by 2 is going to be instrumental in being able to keep servants alive, being able to recycle their skills, and so many servants can make use of this. Support servants can use this to reapply their buffs like almost instantly after they end, or just restack them completely. Solo servants can make good use of this, being able to reduce the cooldowns of their evasion skills and their survival skills to help them, keep that chain going a little bit longer and survive. Maybe sometimes you have one more turn left on your evasion skill, and the enemy's coming up with their Noble Phantasm, and if you don't use this skill, then you're gonna die. But you know, if you can go ahead and use it, reduce the cooldown, use the evasion, evade the Noble Phantasm, and keep moving on. It does have a 13 turn charge time, but much like I said before, you know, you're going to be in the fight for a long time, and you're going to be able to recycle this. As long as you're smart with when you use it, and you know, pick the right spots for it, you should be really good. So moving on to number 5, we have the Mages Association uniform. And this one is going to be your farming Mystic code, as opposed to the last one, which is your solo one. And the reason why I rank this one ahead of the Atlas Academy uniform, because you're going to be farming more than you are going to be soloing. Soloing is kind of just like a fun thing that people do when they've had all the content completed, all the events done, and they just want to challenge themselves. It's not really going to be especially helpful for actually progressing in the game and like completing the new content. You kind of just do it as a challenge to yourself. Whereas this one's going to be very helpful for you. You know, farming isn't really going to be completing events and stories, but you're going to be able to make a lot out of it. You have to grind events, you have to grind for EXP items and things like that for Ascension. So you're going to be just getting more volume out of this, and that's why I ranked it slightly ahead. But as for the skills, the first one is going to be the Cure All, which will heal all of your servants at a maximum of 2800 on a 10 turn charge time at maximum level. So any heal skill is really good, and the party-wide heal skill is even better. Moving on to the second one, it's going to be the Spiritron Transfer, which will charge one servant's Noble Phantasm gauge by 20% on a 13 turn charge time at maximum level. And this one's very nice. When you go into farming, if you take a Kaleidoscope, most people don't have Kaleidoscope max limit broken, so you're going to need to get the extra 20% somewhere. So you can just go ahead and use this skill and get the extra 20% and use your Noble Phantasm, and then boom, wave cleared. Since it is a percentage-based skill, like it's fixed, it's 20%, it doesn't matter what level it is, so you don't really have to level it up, and you just get that flat 20% across the board, which is going to be very helpful. You know, you can have a level 1 Mystic Code and get your Noble Phantasm ready to go, and like I said, it's very effective for farming. And then the final one is going to be a very unique skill, and this is going to be the Command Shuffle, which will randomly deal 5 new command cards to your deck. So, you know, you always have a bad draw every now and then. You're not going to get the cards you want, and maybe it ruins your potential turn. Maybe you have a buff that's about to run out, and you can't make good use of it because you don't have that character's command cards. You go ahead and use Command Shuffle and reshuffle the deck, and you can get a better set of cards, hopefully. So again, you know, it is a little situational, but it can be used more often than other situational effects. And sometimes, you know, you get that really bad draw, you just want to get rid of it, and you can just go ahead and swap freely. Moving on to number 4, we have the Anniversary Blonde Mystic Code. Unfortunately, though, this one is not available in the game at the moment. So as for the skills, this one's going to have the Mana Burst skill, which will give you a 60% increase to your Buster card effectiveness for 1 turn, and on a 13 turn charge time at maximum level. You know, that's going to be fantastic. It is the highest Buster card increase in the game. So, you know, if you have that and you're using a Buster Servant, it already makes its worth right there. The second skill is going to be the Confident in Victory, which will grant you critical stars, 20 stars at level 10 on a 10 turn charge time. This one's going to be nice. You just get 20 stars for free, and you know, if you have a crit upskill or something like that to do more damage on your crit attacks, it's going to be very helpful. Stars are very helpful, and getting 20 free stars is going to make it even better. And then third and finally, you have the Knight's Oath, which will grant one ally guts for 1 turn. You know, this kind of sucks a little bit because it's only for 1 turn, so if they don't get attacked, you kind of wasted it. It does have a 13 turn charge time at max level, so if you miss, then you're going to be in a bad spot, but you can plan around it. You can kind of plan strategically in order to keep that ally alive. You know, this could be very helpful for soloing as well when that ally is the only ally on your team, so you know he's going to get attacked, so it could be beneficial to you to use it in that situation. Overall, though, this one is a very good Mystic Code. It looks like an actual proper servant set of skills. So yeah, no, it's a really good one. Moving on to number 3 is actually going to be the default Mystic Code, the Childe Mystic Code. So for its skills, the first one is going to be the First Aid, which will recover one target's HP. And this will go up to 3000 at level 10 on a 7 turn charge time. So this has the lowest cooldown of all the skills for Mystic Codes. So you're going to be able to get this one to go off more often than not. And you do get a 3000 heal, which is going to be very effective. The second skill is going to be the Instant Enhancement, which will increase one of your servant's character's attack for 1 turn. This will be a 48% increase at level 10 on a 13 turn charge time. I don't know why they didn't just make it 50%. 48% increase is going to be huge on whatever server you choose to use it on. So you're going to be getting a huge damage increase there. And then third and finally, you have the emergency evade, which will apply evasion to one of your servants for 1 turn. So this has a 13 turn charge time at maximum level, and this pretty much is the same thing as the gut skill on the previous Mystic Code. You know, if that ally is not being attacked, then you're going to waste the skill, but honestly you'd rather want to waste a evasion skill on your Mystic Code than a skill evasion. And again, you know, if that is the last servant available, then this is going to be very effective. You know they're going to get attacked, and you do get that 1 turn of evasion, as opposed to 1 turn of guts. You know they'll come back, and then if they get killed again, then they're dead. You know, this one you'll be able to evade all of the attacks, so it does get, you know, a few more points there, and it just ranks in a little bit higher. It also does have the lowest required amount of EXP at 7.6 million to max it out. So, you know, it should be the first one you max out, just because you have it by default, and, you know, you don't really need too much EXP to max it out, and you will get some pretty good effects there at maximum level for it. Moving on, we have another Japanese exclusive one, and this is going to be the Arctic region Childe uniform. Now this is actually an upgrade of the default one, and you're going to get this at the Lost Belt 1 part of the story. Now that's a little bit off for us, but it is just an upgrade version of one you already have, the default one, so you're not going to have to do anything too special in order to get it. You just have to get to that point in the story. However, this thing requires a ton of EXP to max this thing out. 155 million EXP to max it out. So yeah, for those of you who have this thing maxed out, if anyone does, I'm sure people do, but congratulations to you, you know, that is a lot of farming. However, this is a very good Mystic Code to have. The first skill is going to be the Purge and Restore, which will recover one of your servants' HP, much like the original one. However, it will get the additional effect of removing their defensive debuffs. So the healing is going to be the same, but you do get the extra effect, and it is on a 10 turn charge time instead of 7. So, you know, you do lose a few turns there, but you do get the extra added effect. So overall, it about balances itself out. As for the second skill, it's going to be the Phantasmal Reinforcement, which will increase one of your servants' attack for 1 turn, as well as increasing their null phantasm damage for 1 turn. On a 13 turn charge time, you do lose 8% of the bonus to attack, so you know it's only going to be a 40% increase at level 10, but you do get an additional 20% increase to your null phantasm damage. So again, you know, it's going to be a pretty good upgrade. You do lose a little bit of damage, but you make up for that if you're using your null phantasm, so pretty good there. And then the third skill is going to be the Protracted Evasion, which will grant your servant evasion for 1 attack over the course of 3 turns. Now this might seem a little bit worse than the original one, but most of the time your servant's not going to be getting attacked multiple times in the same turn. And you know, it does last for 3 turns, so the odds of it actually working are going to be higher than what I was talking about. If you use the skill and your servant's not attacked, then you just wasted the skill. So this lasting 3 turns is going to allow you more time in order to get that attack to be evaded. So generally, I mean, these two are pretty much very similar. You know, the second skill is obviously the biggest improvement, and that's why it's ranked slightly ahead of the default one. So then ranked number 1 for the Mystic Codes, and I'm sure this isn't a surprise to anyone, but it's going to be the Childe Combat Uniform. So really, this one is by far and away the best Mystic Code in the game. And you know, you do need 70 million EXP to max it out, but really that's a small price to pay for a Mystic Code like this. The first skill is going to be the Buff All Allies, which will increase your party's attack for 1 turn. This will be a 30% increase to your party's attack, which is absolutely fantastic on a 10 turn charge time at maximum level. Very good, very, very useful. The second skill is going to be the Gander, which will stun an enemy for 1 turn on a 13 turn charge time. This can stun any enemy, anything. You know, it has a 100% chance of working unless like some sort of shenanigans go. But even then, I still think it just automatically stuns the enemy. So that's going to be helpful. You use it on bosses and things like that, and just pick and choose the time and be able to get an extra turn out of it. And then third and finally, this is the big skill, and the one that really puts it up here is going to be the Order Change, which will allow you to switch one of your active servants with a sub member. This thing is just so useful. It opens up tons of possibilities in order to make team strategies, team compositions even better. You could go ahead and use a servant and like buff your team, and then swap it out for another servant, and then bring that servant in, and you like get more buffs or things like that. You could use it to evade like null phantasms. You can, if you want to keep a character alive and you have no other way of keeping that character alive, you know, via evasion or healing or anything like that, you could go ahead and use order change, swap out that character for another character that could potentially be killed, or just bring in a character that has the ability to save your team or save that character. Overall though, this has 3 extremely good effects. It opens up a ton of possibilities, and more often than not, this is probably going to be the Mystic code that you're going to be using for everyday play. So thanks for watching, guys. Mystic codes are pretty effective and pretty helpful for team composition and strategy and fights, and hopefully this list helped you guys just, figure out which ones you want to use and which ones you want to max out just a little bit more. So again, thanks for watching. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And throughout the month of December, I will be having that Fate Grand Order giveaway, so check the link below for the video for that. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.